And another thing, stop watching my page before I post what you're looking for and you have a stroke. Thank you.
Prosecutors filed reckless homicide charges in the murder of a Concordia University pharmacy student. Investigators say Jamica Mills shot Ariel Spillner in the chest, killing her last Tuesday near 39th and Lancaster.
Jamica Mills shot her friend Ariel Spillner dead because marijuana made her paranoid about scissors that didn't exist. Ariel was 26 years old, just months away from graduating with her pharmacy degree, when she went to a birthday party at her friend's house and was killed over a completely imaginary threat. The evidence? Mills' own confession, police, admitting Ariel never threatened her, never had a weapon, and never did anything to justify what happened. Mills told detectives she retrieved her gun, returned to the living room, and fired when she saw Ariel make a hand gesture, all because of a delusion triggered by smoking marijuana. This is a story of how a casual evening among friends ended in senseless violence, and how one woman's paranoid episode destroyed 2 lives in a matter of minutes. Ariel Spillner was 26 years old, and in her final year at Concordia University, Wisconsin School of Pharmacy. She was on track to graduate in just a few months, ready to start her career helping people manage their medications and health. According to court documents and news reports, Ariel had dreams of moving to Florida after graduation to begin her pharmacy career in a warmer climate. Ariel wasn't just academically driven. She was athletic and accomplished in multiple areas. She held a 3rd-degree black belt in karate and had played basketball at the collegiate level. These weren't just hobbies. They demonstrated her discipline, commitment, and ability to set goals and achieve them. She grew up in the Madison area in Iowa County with her family, including her sister, Courtney. The 2 sisters were close. On November 5th, 2025, just 90 minutes before Ariel was shot, Courtney spoke with her on the phone. They talked about everyday things, and when they hung up, they told each other, "I love you." Neither could have known those would be their last words. Ariel was described by those who knew her as someone with an infectious smile and laugh, the kind of person who genuinely wanted to help others, which is why pharmacy was a perfect career path for her. She was preparing for final exams, looking forward to graduation, and planning her move to Florida. Everything was falling into place. On the evening of November 5th, Ariel went to celebrate a birthday at a friend's house on West Minot Avenue near 39th and Lancaster in Milwaukee. It was supposed to be a casual get-together with people she trusted. Instead, it became the scene of her death. Jamica Simone Mills was 31 years old and lived in Milwaukee near 39th Street and Lancaster Avenue. According to court records, Mills had a young child and was known in her neighborhood. The house on West Minot Avenue where the shooting occurred was her residence. Mills and Ariel were friends, though the exact timeline and depth of their friendship isn't fully detailed in public records. What's clear is that Ariel trusted Mills enough to come to her home for a birthday celebration. There's no evidence in court documents or news reports of prior conflict between them. No arguments, no restraining orders, no police calls to Mills' residence involving Ariel. According to available records, Mills had no documented history of violent crime before November 5th. There were no warning signs in public records that would have predicted what was about to happen. By all available accounts, this was a friendship that appeared normal until the moment it turned deadly. Mills owned a firearm, a Ruger LCP .380 caliber handgun. She kept it in her bedroom. On November 5th, that gun would be used to kill her friend over a threat that existed only in Mills' mind. What makes this case particularly shocking is the absence of any clear motive or buildup. This wasn't a long simmering feud or a relationship marked by escalating tensions. According to Mills' own later confession, the violence erupted suddenly, triggered by marijuana-induced paranoia, not by anything Ariel actually did. Ariel arrived at Mills' home on the evening of November 5th for what was supposed to be a birthday celebration. According to police reports and Mills' subsequent statements to detectives, the evening started normally. They spent time together, and at some point during the night, they smoked marijuana. This is where everything changed, because what happened next is based largely on Mills' own account, police, and what she described was a complete break from reality. Mills told investigators that after smoking marijuana, she experienced severe paranoia. She became fixated on the idea that Ariel was going to attack her with scissors. According to her confession, this paranoid thought originated when Mills mentioned scissors in conversation while talking about cutting her dog's hair. But there were no scissors being brandished. Ariel never threatened her. Ariel never made any aggressive moves toward her. Mills would later admit all of this to detectives, that Ariel never actually threatened her, that she didn't see Ariel with any weapon, and that Ariel hadn't done anything to provoke what came next. But in that moment, Mills said the paranoid delusion felt real. She believed she was in imminent danger from a threat that simply did not exist. Here's what makes this crucial. Mills had options. She could have left the room. She could have asked Ariel to leave. She could have called someone for help if she genuinely believed she was in danger. Instead, she made a different choice. According to court documents, Mills left the room where Ariel was. She went to her bedroom and retrieved her Ruger handgun. She then returned to the living room where Ariel was. Mills told police that when she came back, Ariel made some kind of hand gesture, something Mills interpreted as threatening. Mills fired her gun. The entire sequence, from the paranoid thought entering Mills' mind to the moment she pulled the trigger, happened quickly, but it wasn't instantaneous. Mills had time to leave the room, locate her gun, and return. Each of those actions was a choice, and each step brought her closer to killing her friend over something that wasn't real. Mills' sister-in-law was in another room of the house with Mills' young child during this time. She didn't witness the initial confrontation, but she heard what happened next. Mills stood in the living room with her loaded Ruger handgun. According to her statement to police, she saw Ariel make a hand gesture, and in her paranoid state, she interpreted it as aggressive. She fired. The bullet struck Ariel in the left shoulder, but the trajectory of the bullet was catastrophic. According to court documents, the gunshot tore through both of Ariel's lungs and severed her aorta. These are fatal injuries, the kind that cause massive internal bleeding and rapidly lead to death. Ariel collapsed. Mills' sister-in-law was in another room when she heard someone yell, "Bitch, you tripping." Immediately after, she heard two gunshots in rapid succession. The first shot was the one that killed Ariel. The second shot came moments later, when Mills turned the gun on herself. According to court records, Mills shot herself in the stomach. Unlike Ariel's wound, Mills' self-inflicted gunshot injury was not immediately fatal, though it was serious enough to require hospitalization. The entire incident lasted just minutes. Ariel Spillner, a 26-year-old pharmacy student months away from graduation, lay dying on her friend's living room floor because of a paranoid delusion about scissors that never existed. There was no weapon. There was no threat. There was no reason. Mills' sister-in-law emerged from the other room to find both women on the floor with gunshot wounds. She immediately called 911, reporting that two people had been shot. Milwaukee police responded to the scene at approximately 9:40 p.m. on November 5, 2025. When officers arrived at the residence near 39th and Lancaster, they found Ariel unresponsive and Mills conscious but injured. Paramedics attempted to save Ariel, but her injuries were too severe. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Mills was transported to a local hospital for treatment of her gunshot wound to the abdomen. At the scene, investigators recovered Mills' Ruger LCP .380 caliber handgun and two spent .380 caliber shell casings. The physical evidence was straightforward. One gun, two shots fired, both women wounded by bullets from that weapon. The house became a crime scene. Ariel's body, the weapon, the casings, the blood, everything was documented and photographed. But while the physical evidence told investigators what happened, it didn't answer the critical question: why? Milwaukee police began their investigation at the scene, but the real breakthroughs came when they were able to interview Mills at the hospital, where she was being treated for her self-inflicted gunshot wound. Mills initially gave detectives a version of events that didn't match the physical evidence. According to court documents, she first told investigators she couldn't remember what happened. When pressed, she claimed that Ariel had shot her first, a claim that the evidence immediately contradicted. The ballistics were clear. Both women had been shot with Mills' gun. The trajectory analysis showed Ariel had been shot while in the living room, not while holding a weapon. There was no evidence of a struggle for gun. Mills' own injury was consistent with a self-inflicted wound, not a defensive shooting. Faced with evidence that contradicted her initial story, Mills eventually confessed to what actually happened. She told detectives that she and Ariel had smoked marijuana together that evening. Mills said the drug triggered severe paranoia in her, a paranoid belief that Ariel was going to stab her with scissors. Mills admitted to investigators that this fear stemmed from her own mention of scissors when she was talking about grooming her dog. But she acknowledged that Ariel never threatened her, never had scissors or any other weapon, and never did anything aggressive. According to court documents, Mills told police that in her paranoid state, she left the room, went to her bedroom, retrieved her Ruger handgun, and returned to confront Ariel. She said she fired when she saw Ariel make a hand gesture that she interpreted as threatening. Critically, Mills told investigators, "I did not mean to kill Spillner, but understood firearms can kill." This statement is significant because it shows Mills knew that firing a gun could result in death, even as she claimed she did intend to kill her friend. Mills' confession was recorded. The physical evidence supported her account of the basic sequence of events. She retrieved her gun, she fired it, she shot both Ariel and herself. What the evidence couldn't explain was why Mills made those choices when Ariel posed no actual threat. Investigators interviewed Mills' sister-in-law, who confirmed she was in another room with Mills' child when she heard the yelling and gunshots. Her testimony corroborated the timeline. The incident happened quickly, and she only became aware of it when she heard the confrontation and shots fired. The crime scene evidence was processed. Blood spatter analysis, bullet trajectory analysis, and forensic examination of the weapon all confirmed Mills' confession about the basic facts of the shooting. There was no evidence of anyone else being involved, no evidence of a struggle, no evidence of Ariel threatening Mills in any way. Mills' medical record from a hospital showed the extent of her self-inflicted injury and confirmed she had shot herself in the abdomen. Her treatment kept her hospitalized initially, delaying her first court appearance. The investigation moved quickly because Mills had confessed. By November 8th, just 3 days after the shooting, Mills was formally charged with first-degree reckless homicide. Ariel's death sent shockwaves through multiple communities, her pharmacy school, her family's hometown in the Madison area, and the Milwaukee neighborhood where she was killed. Concordia University, Wisconsin School of Pharmacy released a statement expressing condolences to Ariel's family and offering counseling services to students affected by her death. For her classmates, Ariel's death was particularly devastating because they were so close to graduation. They had spent years together in the demanding pharmacy program, supporting each other through exams and clinical rotations, and now one of their own was gone just months before they would have walked across the stage together. Friends and family organized memorials to honor Ariel's memory. According to news reports, those who attended shared memories of Ariel's infectious smile, her dedication to becoming a pharmacist, and her dreams of moving to Florida to start her career. Many expressed shock that someone so full of life and promise had been killed in such a senseless way. On social media, tributes poured in from people who knew Ariel at different stages of her life. Pharmacy school classmates posted photos from their time together, remembering study sessions and celebrations. Former basketball teammates shared memories from their college days. Karate students who had trained with her recalled her discipline and skill. The common thread in all these tributes was disbelief. How could someone working so hard toward a career helping others be killed over something so incomprehensibly preventable? The case also sparked conversations about marijuana's effects on mental health. While most people experience relaxation or mild euphoria from marijuana, medical literature documents rare but serious adverse reactions, including severe paranoia and psychotic episodes. Mills' case became an example of how dangerous these rare reactions can be when combined with access to firearms. For Ariel's family, the loss was devastating. Her sister Courtney had to grapple with the fact that their last conversation had been just 90 minutes before Ariel was killed, a normal phone call that ended with, "I love you," never imagining those would be their final words. Jamica Mills was formally charged with first-degree reckless homicide, use of a dangerous weapon, on November 8, 2025. Under Wisconsin law, first-degree reckless homicide carries a maximum sentence of 60 years in prison. The use of a dangerous weapon modifier can add an additional 5 years to that sentence, meaning Mills faces up to 65 years if convicted. First-degree reckless homicide means prosecutors believe Mills showed utter disregard for human life when she retrieved her gun and shot Ariel. It's a charge that doesn't require proving Mills intended to kill Ariel, only that her actions created a clear risk of death, and she proceeded anyway. Mills made her initial court appearance via video from the hospital, where she was still recovering from her self-inflicted gunshot wound. At that hearing, Milwaukee County Circuit Court Judge Laura Crivello presided, and Mills' cash bond was set at $150,000. Prosecutors argued for a high bond, emphasizing the severity of the crime. They pointed to Mills' own confession that Ariel never threatened her and never had a weapon, yet Mills still retrieved a firearm and used it against an unarmed woman. The state argued this showed a clear danger to public safety. Mills' defense attorney argued that Mills had no prior violent criminal history and had deep ties to the Milwaukee community through her young child. The defense indicated they would likely focus on Mills' mental state at the time of the shooting, specifically that the marijuana had triggered a psychotic episode that made her genuinely believe she was in danger, even though that danger was not real. However, prosecutors have significant evidence to counter any diminished capacity defense. Mills' own statement to police included her admission that she understood firearms can kill. She acknowledged to detectives that Ariel never threatened her. She admitted there were no scissors, no weapon, no actual threat. Most critically, Mills had time to make multiple decisions. She left the room, retrieved her gun from her bedroom, and returned to confront Ariel. Each of those actions required thought and choice. Mills entered a not guilty plea. A preliminary hearing was scheduled for November 17th, where prosecutors will present evidence to establish probable cause that Mills committed the crime. If the case proceeds past the preliminary hearing, it will move toward trial. The case has been assigned to Circuit Court Judge Laura Crivello, who will oversee all pretrial motions and, if the case goes to trial, will preside over those proceedings. As of now, Mills remains in custody on the $150,000 cash bond. The legal proceedings are in their early stages, but the evidence against Mills, particularly her own detailed confession, presents a significant challenge for the defense. Ariel Spillner was 26 years old. She was months away from earning her pharmacy degree from Concordia University, Wisconsin, a goal she had worked toward for years. She had plans to move to Florida and begin her career helping people manage their medications and improve their health. She had a third-degree black belt in karate, had played basketball at the collegiate level, and had her entire life ahead of her. Instead, she died on a living room floor, killed by someone she considered a friend, over a threat that never existed. Ariel's graduation will never happen. She'll never walk across that stage in her pharmacy school robes. She'll never move to Florida. She'll never help patients understand their medications or counsel them on managing their health conditions. All of those dreams died with her on November 5th. Her sister Courtney spoke to her just 90 minutes before the shooting. They had a normal conversation, the kind siblings of all the time, and they ended it by telling each other, "I love you." Courtney now has to live with the knowledge that those were their last words, and that an hour and a half later, Ariel would be dead. Ariel's family now faces a future without her. They'll never get to see her achieve the goals she worked so hard for. They'll never celebrate her graduation, her first day as a pharmacist, or any of the other milestones she was looking forward to. Their lives have been permanently altered by a senseless act of violence that had no justification. Jamica Mills sits in Milwaukee County Jail on $150,000 bond, awaiting trial on first-degree reckless homicide charges. If convicted, she faces up to 65 years in prison. Her young child is growing up knowing their mother killed someone. Mills herself survived her self-inflicted gunshot wound and physically recovered, but she'll spend potentially the rest of her life in prison for what she did. The case raises difficult questions that don't have easy answers. Mills claims marijuana triggered severe paranoia, a recognized but rare adverse reaction. Medical literature confirms that some individuals experience psychotic episodes, severe paranoia, or other serious psychiatric symptoms from marijuana use. For most people, marijuana causes relaxation or mild euphoria, but for a small percentage, the effects can be dangerous. What this case demonstrates is the catastrophic consequences when such a reaction occurs in someone who has immediate access to a firearm. Mills experienced paranoia and, instead of removing herself from the situation or seeking help, she armed herself and confronted an imaginary threat. The question that haunts this case is whether Ariel's death could have been prevented. Mills made multiple choices that night. She chose to leave the room. She chose to get her gun. She chose to return to where Ariel was. She chose to fire. At any point, she could have made a different choice. Calling for help, leaving the house, asking Ariel to leave, but she didn't. She retrieved a weapon and used it against an unarmed friend who posed no actual threat. Mills told police she understood firearms can kill, yet she fired anyway. That understanding, that knowledge of the consequences, is part of what makes this case so tragic. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a gun that discharged unintentionally. Mills made a conscious decision to retrieve her gun and fire it at someone who had done nothing to threaten her. As the case moves through the legal system, several questions remain. Will Mills' defense successfully argue that marijuana-induced psychosis diminished her responsibility? Will a jury find that her paranoid state absolves her of guilt, or will they conclude that she still made conscious choices that led to Ariel's death? How will the court balance Mills' claim of mental impairment with her own admission that she knew guns could kill? For now, the case awaits its preliminary hearing. Prosecutors will present their evidence. The defense will argue their position. And eventually, this case will likely go before a jury who will decide whether Jamica Mills is guilty of recklessly killing her friend Ariel Spillner. But regardless of what happens in court, nothing will change the fundamental tragedy of this case. A young woman with her whole life ahead of her, who wanted to help people, who was months away from achieving her dreams, died because her friend experienced a paranoid delusion and had a gun within reach. Ariel Spillner's life ended at 26. Her potential will never be realized. Her family will never see her graduate. Her future patients will never benefit from her care. And all of it was preventable if Mills had made different choices, if she hadn't had a gun so easily accessible, if she had sought help instead of arming herself. This is the Ariel Spillner case. A friendship destroyed, a life ended, and a senseless tragedy that never should have happened.